The day I finally stepped out of my sister's shadow began with a wedding and ended with an explosion of long-buried truths. I was always cast in the shadow of disappointment, while my sister basked in the golden light of our parents' adoration. But that carefully crafted facade was about to shatter, exposing decades of favoritism and betrayal that had simmered beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect family. As a research professor at a prestigious institution, I, 42F, have carved out a successful career in the unforgiving world of academia, where every grant proposal and publication is a battle-hard one. Yet in the eyes of my family, particularly my parents, I remained perpetually inadequate, my achievements mere footnotes in the grand narrative of my sister's life. The story I'm about to share has been festering beneath the surface for decades, a tale of systematic favoritism that finally reached its breaking point, fracturing our family's carefully maintained illusion of harmony. My younger sister Ava, 38F, has always been the crown jewel of our family, their golden child whose brilliance seemingly eclipsed my existence. The bitter taste of comparison flavored my earliest memories, each moment tainted by the constant reminder that I wasn't enough. At 8 years old, I can still vividly recall sitting cross-legged in my room, engrossed in my beloved scientific texts, while my mother's exasperated voice drifted upstairs. "Why can't you be more outgoing like your sister?" At merely 6, Ava had already mastered the art of captivating our parents' social circle with her theatrical performances in our meticulously decorated living room, each gesture calculated to draw attention and praise. While I spent countless hours dissecting old timepieces, fascinated by their intricate mechanisms and the precise dance of gears and springs, Ava commanded center stage, basking in the spotlight of constant attention. This pattern became our family's unspoken doctrine, as rigid and unyielding as the laws of physics I would later study. When I yearned for a chemistry set on my 10th birthday, my eyes bright with dreams of experiments and discoveries, I received secondhand novels because they were more practical. Yet barely 2 months later, when Ava expressed interest in dance, our financially constrained parents miraculously discovered funds for private lessons, complete with custom-made tutus and pristine ballet slippers that cost more than all my birthday presents combined. That same year, when I eagerly sought to join the school science club, my mother's response was a weary sigh about expenses, coupled with unsolicited advice to focus on making friends instead, as if my passion for science somehow made me less worthy of investment than Ava's theatrical pursuits. During those formative years, my sole sanctuary was my grandmother Martha's home, a modest haven just a few blocks away that felt like stepping into a different universe, one where curiosity was celebrated and intelligence was a gift to be nurtured, not a flaw to be corrected. While my parents whisked Ava off to acting classes and dance recitals, parading her like a prized show pony, I found solace in weekend retreats with Grandma Martha, a retired high school science teacher with eyes that sparkled with wisdom and warmth. She nurtured my curiosity in ways my parents never attempted, never even imagined. "Your mind is a gift," she would whisper as we traced constellations in her backyard on clear nights, her weathered finger pointing out Orion's belt, or as we conducted simple experiments in her welcoming kitchen, where the periodic table hung proudly next to family photos. The disparity in our treatment became a gaping wound during our teenage years, a chasm that widened with each passing milestone. When my renewable energy project clinched first place at the state science fair at 14, a project that had kept me up for countless nights, fueled by determination and instant noodles, my parents were conspicuously absent, citing Ava's crucial audition as their priority. Yet that same year, they orchestrated an elaborate celebration, complete with professional photography and the entire extended family in attendance, when Ava landed a minor role in a local theater production, 3 lines in the second act of Our Town. High school unfolded as a blur of unacknowledged academic triumphs, each achievement disappearing into the void of my parents' indifference. While maintaining a perfect 4.0 GPA, serving as president of the science club, and editing the school newspaper, achievements that required countless hours of dedication and sacrifice, I watched as dinner conversations invariably revolved around Ava's latest theatrical endeavors and her blossoming social life as she dated the football team captain. My achievements, when noticed at all, were dismissed with cursory nods and half-hearted acknowledgments, as if they were merely distractions from what they considered truly important, Ava's path to stardom. When college acceptance letters arrived, I had secured a full scholarship to study biochemistry at an elite university, an achievement that should have been cause for celebration, a validation of years of dedication and sleepless nights. Meanwhile, Ava's desire to attend an expensive performing arts school prompted our parents to sell our cherished family vacation cabin, the place where I had spent countless summer evenings stargazing and dreaming of scientific discoveries. "At least we won't have to worry about your tuition," my mother remarked with thinly veiled relief, the words cutting deeper than any scalpel I would later use in my research. "Ava shows such promise. We simply can't let her talent go to waste." as if my own promise had somehow evaporated in the shadow of Ava's spotlight. Throughout my undergraduate years, I immersed myself in laboratory work, finding solace in the precise measurements and controlled experiments that offered a stark contrast to the chaos of my family dynamics. In the sterile confines of the lab, where results were measured by accuracy rather than applause, I finally found an environment where intelligence and dedication received their due recognition. My professors became the mentors I had always craved, nurturing my academic pursuits with genuine enthusiasm that made my parents' indifference even more glaring. Even at my graduation, where I received highest honors and acceptance to a prestigious PhD program, an accomplishment that had my professors beaming with pride, my parents left early. Ava had a commercial callback, after all, and heaven forbid they miss her chance to be the next face of discount furniture. My career flourished steadily through my 20s and 30s, each publication and grant a brick in the foundation of my professional success. The hours in the lab grew longer, the experiments more complex, and the discoveries more significant. At 40, I achieved the rare distinction of earning tenure, a milestone that my colleagues celebrated with champagne and heartfelt speeches. Yet at family gatherings, conversations inevitably gravitated toward Ava's latest acting endeavor, a walk-on role in a regional theater production, or her marriage to Richard, a prosperous real estate developer who seemed more impressed by my research than my own family ever was. My groundbreaking molecular biology research, which could potentially revolutionize cancer treatment, was casually dismissed with, "Oh, Emily's still doing her science things," as if I were a child playing with test tubes rather than a respected researcher pushing the boundaries of medical science. When I met David, a fellow researcher in my department, I thought I'd finally found my slice of happiness in the sterile world of academia. Our shared passion for scientific discovery seemed to forge an unbreakable bond, our minds dancing together through the complexities of molecular biology. Our collaboration on multiple papers felt like an intellectual tango, each hypothesis an experiment bringing us closer together. When he proposed last year, I dared to hope that I might finally have a milestone my family could celebrate without comparison, a moment that was purely mine. But fate had other plans, and they unraveled in the most devastating way imaginable. Last week, working late to finalize data for our latest paper, research that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of cellular regeneration, I walked into David's office with our results clutched in my hands like a peace offering. Instead, I found him entangled in an intimate embrace with Ava on his desk, my sister's designer dress hiked up around her waist, my engagement ring catching the harsh fluorescent light as my hand froze on the doorknob, my fiancé and my married sister. The betrayal was as calculated as a chemical reaction, as cruel as the laws of natural selection. Yet somehow, the aftermath proved even more heartbreaking than the betrayal itself. When I informed my parents, their immediate concern was for Ava, their golden child whose shine never seemed to tarnish in their eyes. "Please don't tell Richard," my mother pleaded, her voice trembling not with anger at the betrayal of her eldest daughter, but with fear for Ava's security. "Think about your sister's marriage. She'll lose everything with that prenup." The words hung in the air like toxic fumes in an improperly ventilated lab. "These things happen, Emily," my father added, his tone dismissive, as if I'd simply dropped a test tube rather than had my heart shattered into a million pieces. "You need to be the bigger person here." The words hit me like a physical blow, like a sudden exposure to a caustic substance. I'd been the bigger person for 40 years. When they celebrated Ava's every minor achievement while forgetting my birthdays, when they flew across the country for her community theater performances but missed my PhD defense, when they lectured me about financial independence while helping Ava purchase her first home. I had swallowed my hurt, buried my resentment, and played my assigned role in their carefully orchestrated family drama with the precision of a well-calibrated instrument. But amidst this turmoil, an unexpected light pierced through the darkness like a laser through a crystal. 3 weeks ago, at a university fundraising event where I was presenting our department's latest research initiatives, I met Michael, a 45-year-old architect who specializes in designing research facilities. Unlike David, who turned every conversation into an intellectual competition, a constant battle for academic supremacy, Michael listened with genuine fascination when I spoke about my work. His questions were thoughtful and probing, and his eyes lit up with authentic interest as he shared his creative approach to designing spaces that nurture scientific discovery. In him, I found someone who could bridge the gap between art and science, who saw beauty in both the elegant sweep of a curved wall and the precise structure of a DNA molecule. Michael wasn't just an architect who designed research facilities. He was an artist who understood the poetry and precision, a man who could see the beauty in both the clean lines of a well-designed laboratory and the chaotic dance of molecules under a microscope. His eyes would light up with genuine wonder when I explained my research, not with the competitive gleam I'd grown used to seeing in David's gaze. When I called Grandma Martha last week to tell her about Michael, She detected the change in my voice before I even mentioned him. Her intuition, honed by decades of observing both scientific phenomena and human nature, picked up the subtle shift in my tone. "You sound lighter, dear," she observed with her characteristic wisdom, the same gentle insight that had guided me through countless experiments in her kitchen. "Tell me about this architect of yours." We spent 2 hours discussing everything. How Michael's eyes sparkle with childlike wonder when he talks about the intersection of art and science in his designs. How he sought my input on his preliminary sketches for the new research wing with genuine respect for my expertise. How he remembered every detail about my work when we met for coffee, treating each of my research projects as if they were architectural masterpieces in their own right. The contrast between my family's reaction to David and their response to Michael was stark yet telling, like the difference between a failed experiment and a groundbreaking discovery. While mentions of David at family gatherings were quickly redirected to Ava's latest accomplishments, my parents actually paused their usual praise of Ava's acting career to listen when I spoke about Michael. Though predictably, at a recent family dinner, my aunt managed to steer the conversation back to familiar territory with the precision of a well-practiced routine. "An architect, you say? Did you know Ava's yoga friend is married to a famous architect? Tell Emily about him, Ava." The moment crystallized everything wrong with our family dynamics, like a perfect specimen under a microscope. The morning of my wedding dawned with golden sunlight streaming through the botanical garden's glass panels, nature's spotlight illuminating what should have been my perfect day. The air was heavy with the sweet perfume of blooming flowers and the weight of impending confrontation. Even as I stood in the bridal suite, surrounded by the gentle rustle of my ivory gown and the comforting scent of fresh roses, I could sense the approaching storm with the same certainty that I could predict a chemical reaction. Through the antique-paned windows, I watched the drama unfold like a Shakespearean tragedy performed in a garden of scientific wonders. Ava arrived in a dress that could have graced a Hollywood premiere. Pristine white, naturally, because even at my wedding, she couldn't resist stealing the spotlight, her entrance calculated for maximum impact. Our parents followed in her wake, my mother's theatrical sobs echoing across the garden, while my father attempted to reason with the stoic security team, his diplomatic skills failing him for once. As I observed this familiar scene from the bridal suite, with Grandma Martha's steady presence beside me like a well-calibrated compass and Michael's sister adjusting my veil with the precision of a lab technician, something within me finally crystallized, like a solution reaching its saturation point. Years of suppressed emotions, of being the understanding daughter, the accommodating sister, the silent supporter of their family mythology. It all culminated in this moment, a reaction that could no longer be contained. When I stepped out to the entrance, still wearing my wedding dress that caught the morning light like a prism, scattering rainbows across the marble floor, I felt no need to dim my own light for the first time in my life. The confrontation that followed was like watching years of carefully constructed facades crumble with the inevitability of entropy, each revelation a catalyst for the next. "Emily, how could you do this to me?" Ava's performance was Oscar-worthy, her voice trembling with practiced emotion, each gesture choreographed for maximum dramatic effect. "I'm your sister. I came here to support you, to show you how much I love you." But her soliloquy was cut short by the unexpected arrival of a black SUV. Richard's car pulling into the parking lot like a dark comet, disrupting a perfectly ordered solar system. What unfolded next was a scene that even Ava, with all her theatrical training, couldn't have scripted. As Richard approached, his face etched with determination like a specimen preserved in amber, Ava's mask of sisterly devotion began to crack like a poorly constructed hypothesis. The final blow came when David's call echoed through her phone's speaker, his casual inquiry about their later rendezvous exposing the truth she'd tried so desperately to hide, like a crucial piece of data that invalidates years of research. My mother, true to form, turned to me with accusation in her eyes, playing her well-rehearsed role of Ava's defender. "Look what you've done. If you had just invited your sister properly, none of this would have happened." The words hung in the air like toxic fumes, but this time, they failed to poison my resolve. For the first time in my life, I felt no need to apologize, no urge to smooth things over like a scientist adjusting variables to fit a flawed theory. My voice was steady, clear, and unapologetic as I responded, each word precisely measured like reagents in a crucial experiment. "No, Mom. These are her choices, not mine. She chose to have an affair with my fiancé while married, to crash my wedding in white, and to continue seeing David behind Richard's back. 3 years ago, I found them together in his office, and when I told you and Dad, you never once asked how I was feeling. Your only concern was protecting Ava's marriage because of Richard's prenup." The silence that followed was as absolute as a vacuum, broken only by the gentle rustling of leaves in the botanical garden. Richard's expression shifted from hurt to fury as he processed this new information, like a chemical reaction reaching its violent conclusion. "A prenup? Is that why you've been pretending everything's fine?" he demanded, his words catalyzing the final breakdown of Ava's carefully maintained facade. In that moment, Ava's carefully constructed world imploded like a failed experiment under pressure. Through mascara-stained tears that left dark trails down her perfectly made-up face, she revealed everything. The affair with David had preceded my engagement, driven by her inability to stand that, for once, I had something she couldn't claim as her own, a truth as bitter as the reagents in my lab. As Richard stormed away and Ava chased after him, their drama fading into the background like the ambient noise of a busy laboratory, something extraordinary happened. The remaining guests, my colleagues who had witnessed my dedication to science, Michael's family who had embraced me without reservation, Grandma Martha who had nurtured my curiosity from the beginning, and the relatives who had silently witnessed Ava's deception for years, formed a protective circle around us, like electrons arranging themselves in their optimal configuration. Michael's mother, a retired judge with wisdom etched in her eyes like the fine lines on a precision instrument, simply asked, "Now, shall we have a wedding?" Michael's vows brought tears to my eyes, not for their poetic flourishes, but for their simple truth, as pure as distilled water. He promised to love me and to see me, truly see me, to value my mind as much as my heart, and to build a life founded on mutual respect and understanding. The ceremony was beautiful, the gardens in full bloom, morning sunlight creating natural spotlights through the canopy of trees, nature's own laboratory of light and shadow. Our honeymoon plans reflect who we are, a perfect fusion of science and serenity in New Zealand, where between hiking expeditions through landscapes shaped by geological forces and wine tastings that demonstrate the chemistry of fermentation, we'll visit some of the world's most innovative research facilities. As Grandma Martha observed when she called this morning to check on me, her voice carrying the warmth of a well-calibrated incubator. Sometimes the most significant experiments are the ones where everything goes wrong, but you end up discovering something revolutionary. She's right, as always, her wisdom as reliable as the laws of thermodynamics. In the chaos of that wedding day, I discovered my own strength, like finding an unexpected compound that changes everything. I'm not certain what the future holds for my family, but I'm focusing on my new life with Michael, my research that could change lives, and the family we've chosen, one built on genuine love and respect rather than obligation and rivalry, a structure as solid as the double helix of DNA. I know my parents will eventually reach out, likely seeking my help in rebuilding Ava's life now that Richard is divorcing her. But for now, I'm embarking on my honeymoon with my remarkable husband who loves me because of my dedication to science, not in spite of it, who sees the beauty in both the elegant sweep of a mathematical equation and the passionate light in my eyes when I talk about my research. This will be my final update, the conclusion of this particular experiment in family dynamics. Here's to new beginnings, clear boundaries as precise as the measurements in my lab, and finally, the freedom to be authentically myself, a scientist, a wife, a woman who no longer needs to dim her light for others to shine. Thank you for reading this chapter of my story. May it remind others that it's never too late to step into your own light, to let your brilliance illuminate the world like a laser beam cutting through darkness. Sometimes the most beautiful discoveries come not from following the expected protocol, but from having the courage to try something new, to break free from the constraints of others' expectations and forge your own path through the universe of possibilities.